I'm gonna share with you how I made a 5-digit mistake in the home buying process, and how, if you just learn from my experience, it's something you can definitely avoid yourself. I will also mention that this whole thing that I'm gonna be sharing with you could have been prevented had I just done things a little differently in the beginning. If I could have seen this video, a few months back, I would have saved myself quite a bit of pain. So first, a little context. I'm a first-time home buyer, and so I've never been through this whole process. And the home buying process is pretty involved. It's pretty intricate, and I basically got a crash course in it from my real estate agent, like the first time my wife and I met with her. A second thing to know is that this process will vary from state to state, but I do think that the general shape of it is going to be the same no matter where you are, at least in the United States. Another thing to know is that we didn't do anything special. So like our offer, which is basically the contract that you offer out, was totally boilerplate. We went with all the typical and usual standard terms and conventions. There was really nothing exotic about what we did. And then lastly, and maybe most importantly for folks who are watching this, we bought a 100-year-old home. And so much of what we discovered probably wouldn't apply if this is like a brand new home. But if your home is even a little old, this may be something to know. So the first thing to know is that when you make an offer on a home and it gets accepted, that offer is basically a contract that has a lot of stuff in it. For the sake of this video, the thing that I want to really zoom in on is that there is a portion of the buying process that includes inspections. You make an offer after seeing the house, usually dolled up and staged, and that's kind of your impression. But once you go and make an offer, you have some time to actually have inspectors go in there and really look under the hood. In our case, we had 10 days to get that done. Usually a general inspector will go in, and that person's job is really just to identify other things to have further specialists dig into. These would be things like the roof, the HVAC, the foundation, the plumbing, the outdoors, that kind of thing. And all of that has to happen, in our case, in a 10-day window. We actually ended up having to ask for more time because there was just a lot to do there. All of this is kind of laid out in the terms of the offer letter. We then have 3 days to write up all the things that we want changed and hand that to the seller. The seller then has an additional 3 days to review what we said and then basically agree or counter. At any point in time, we as the buyers can walk away. That's kind of nice. But the thing to know, unless we actively say no thank you, our silence would be effectively acceptance. So what that really means is that this sort of negotiating period that's outlined in the offer letter is your first and only real opportunity to identify any kind of deal breakers that would make you walk away. And if you don't find them in this time, then once this period has passed, you basically have to honor the contract. This is something that you could be taken into court with. And so that's sort of the context. So how did we end up screwing up? Well, it turns out that when we were in the middle of this inspection period, we ended up working with a totally unqualified electrician that totally affected our decision making, and we didn't realize it until the end. And so our 100-year-old home has a bunch of what's known as knob and tube wiring. This was a standard way of doing things back in the 1930s, 1940s. Several generations of electrical standards have since come and gone. And bottom line, homeowners insurance policies don't touch this stuff anymore. I called so many insurance companies trying to get a homeowner's policy on this house, and the moment knob and tube, those words came up, I would instantly be told, sorry, we can't insure you. How did I get to that point though? We had this electrician came in after the general inspector, looked around and basically said, this is fine, nothing to worry about here, no fire hazard. Yeah, there's a little knob and tube, but it's no big deal. It's behind breakers, I think is what that person said. I tried to relay that to the underwriters at the various insurance companies I was writing to and basically got laughed off the phone. We only found out about this after our inspection period was over. And so we thought we were in fine shape from an electricity perspective when we were going back and forth with the seller. And by the time I came around to actually realizing that we were not in good shape, the opportunity to have walked away had passed and we were basically stuck with it. We ultimately had another electrician come in and inspect it, and he basically said, like, yeah, this place is filled, infested with knob and tube, and that the only way out of it to get it modernized and up to standard and insurable was to rewire the whole house, which was certainly not in our initial home buying budget. Ooh, once we learned that, you could feel the blood leaving our heads when my wife and I realized the position that we were in. We really had our backs against the wall. I mean, there was nothing we could really do at that point. We had to honor the contract, which was important, right? We're not gonna renege once we're past that period. And so fast forward, we close on the home. I ended up having to get a builder's risk policy on it, which is a short-term insurance policy that people use when they're building homes or doing massive renovations. It's basically like very expensive, high-risk insurance that just made sure that we had some kind of coverage when we took possession of the home. And it bought us 90 days to get the rewire done. In the end, the cost of the rewiring job was about $13,000. Thankfully, we were able to absorb it, but man, it would have been really nice to have used those funds on anything else, furniture, paint, aesthetics. There's a number of things that, we had earmarked that cash for. How could it have been prevented? A couple of ways. First of all, what I should have done, and what I would highly recommend you do if you're actually looking to buy a home or you're in the home buying process, line up your inspectors before you make an offer. Once you make an offer, a countdown begins. Things go fast. One of the reasons that we got this unqualified electrician in the first place was because we lived 3 hours away, and we basically leaned on the network of our real estate agent since we couldn't really do things in person. And so we were delighted, when she was able to line up this electrician and schedule the inspections and all the things that came with it. We didn't think to check his credentials, make sure he was licensed, ensure he was bonded and insured. We didn't do any of that. We should have. So that's actually our fault. I can't blame the real estate agent. In our case, what we should have done is we should have, introduced ourselves to probably an electrician, an HVAC specialist, a roofing specialist, a foundation specialist, and a plumber. We should have had all these relationships in place so that once we made an offer, it would be an easy thing to do to just select the phone number for the people that we had already known, easily be able to schedule work quickly, maybe even give them a heads up that we were hunting. These contractors are often all too happy to do this work for us, even when they have free inspections. It's sort of a form of lead generation. With all the time in the world before you make an offer, that's really the opportunity to research the companies and make sure everything is legit and above board. So that's what I should have done. That's definitely what you should do, learn from my mistake. The other thing I probably should have done was to get to the homeowner's insurance policy earlier than I did. I waited too long to actually pick up the phone and basically shop around. I probably should have done that like before or right after we made the offer. And that way, any of these questions that would have come up, we probably could have gotten ahead of it. I only found out that we had made the mistake when I was trying to get insurance. That's when all the hard questions come. Luckily, we are on the other side of that now. It's gonna take us a longer time to get the house where we want it because we had a 5-digit setback. And so we're gonna have to take our time and save up our money to be able to do more things. But it's something that, can be prevented, can be avoided. It's really simple to do. And I hope that you'll be able to benefit from this mistake that I've made. That's it for this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to grow it and that really, really helps. I'll see you in the next one.